Alright, so I'm going to show how to completely disassemble a MacBook Pro 15-inch model A1398 mid-2015. So first what you want to do is remove the 10 Pentalobe screws on the bottom. This is, it's like a star-shaped screw, so don't try and use other ones or you can damage the screws. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right, once you do that, you'll want to get your fingers by pulling this here, and then go to the side and then pull up to undo the clips. There's 2 of them, so do that on both sides, just like that. Okay, once you do that, you can remove the cover so you can see the clips here. Alright, once you do that, disconnect the battery. So to do that, as you can see, the battery has the connector sticks out a little bit over the edge. So you just get your fingernails and go from both sides and just pull it up like that. So here you can see how it's connected. Okay. Once you do that, you'll want to hold the power button just to drain any power. So just open the screen a little bit and then hold the power button down. Hold it for a few seconds. Alright, once you do that, close it up. Then you can start removing the other connectors. So there's the LCD connector here. I like to use my fingernail to get under. There's a little latch here. So I use that and then go under a corner. And then you can flip up this little latch here. Once you do that, you can grab the connector from both sides and kind of just pull it back. All right, just like that. All right. Make sure if you do the LCD thing that you drain the power or you can damage the screen. So then flip back these little rubber things and then pull up the antennas. You start from the back of the tail and just pull it up. If you can't do that with your fingernails, you can use a tool. Just get it underneath the antenna and then pull it up just like that. Okay. All right, so do that. Remove all 3 antennas. Then to remove this webcam or the Isight camera cable, you start from the back here, unroute this cable, and then you can just peel it up from here. There's an adhesive. Okay, once you get all the adhesive out, I like to hold as close as I can and then use my other finger to kind of push it to pull the connector back, just like that. If it's stubborn, you might have to kind of keep wiggling it back and side to side or up and down to get the connector to come loose. All right, then to make it so you can take this board out, it's going to be caught underneath this. So what you want to do is use the small screwdriver and then go underneath this rubber piece and then kind of pull it up, and that'll get this rubber piece out with the adhesive on it. Okay. Then to remove that, you need to use a larger bit. I believe is it this T8? Yeah. So use a T8 bit and then just unscrew it. You don't need to take it all the way out. You can if you want, but you can just loosen it just so the little metal bracket for the wires can move out of the way to get this out. But yeah, to make it easier, I'm probably gonna just remove it all the way so you can kind of see. These cables are integrated into the screen, so if you break them, you're gonna have to replace the whole screen. So just be very careful with all these cables. Okay, so now you can remove these little brackets that hold this in place. They're all T5 screws. All right, so remove the screws holding these brackets. All right, just like this. Hopefully I get everything in camera. Sometimes I don't know because I'm not staring at my camera. But yeah, and if somebody calls or something, it might stop the recording. So if it does, I'll have to make another part because my phone's running out of space, so I can't really merge them together. All right, so do that. Once you remove the screws and remove these brackets, then you can remove this connector. So just get your fingernail underneath and then pop it up just like that on both sides. All right, you can leave it attached to the fan because they put an adhesive there, but just pop it up just like that. Okay, so as you can see, it's stuck on there with some adhesive. So continue taking out the other screws. There's one here. All right, hopefully everything's in camera. And then you can take out the fan. So there's those fan screws here. Don't forget the one screw up holding the heat sink here. Okay. Most of the MacBook models are very similar from the Retina along these lines. Maybe there'll be several more screws in different spots, but for the most part it's very similar. So this video should help you actually disassemble most MacBooks of the Retina line before they change the keyboard style. Okay, so just remove all these screws. Once you remove the fan screws, actually the fan on this model goes underneath here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the screw here that holds the fan to this motherboard, because I'm going to actually lift the whole thing out if I can, if I don't have to take the fan out. So if I do, you'll see. But yeah, then there's the keyboard backlight connector here. You want to pry that up with your fingernail as well, just like that. Make sure when you put the board back that these things are on top of the board, because if you screw it down and these are under, then you're gonna have to take it all out again. Okay. All right. So do that. Take these screws out. There's another bracket here holding the trackpad connector in place, so remove that one as well. All right. Just like that. Pry this connector up. Okay. You might have to move this out of the way in order for you to get the board up. One of the slightly difficult connectors to remove is this one. You might have to use like a small needle or something to help remove that. So I use like a needle. You might be able to do it with the screwdriver, but go underneath the cable and then pry it up from one corner. Let's see here. So if you can get the tool underneath and then pry it up from the corner. Let's see here. It's a little bit tough because there's not much room. But yeah, so basically pry it up at an angle like that. Once you get one side of it out, you can run your fingernail along the connector and then pull up the other side just like that. Okay. All right, then we'll remove the screw for the SSD. So this is the SSD. Okay. Just like that. And then to remove the SSD, you just lift it slightly at an angle just so it's above the speaker, and then kind of wiggle it and it'll come out just like that. Okay. Okay. Once you remove the SSD, you can undo the latch for this connector as well. Okay, just do that. And then you can wiggle it just like the screen cable and pull that back. Okay, just like that. Alright, if the speaker's in the way, you can wait until you lift this board up to kind of get a little bit more room to slide this cable in. Okay, then there's one screw underneath the SSD right here. Alright, so remove that one. Let's see if I can. And keep all these screws in order, because if you mix them all up, it's going to be difficult to put them back. Alright. Because they are all different sizes, different shapes, so you don't want to get them all mixed around. Alright, so just continue removing all the screws. Okay. And again, the fan underneath this little rubber cap, you can take this off. There's another screw there. Okay. Let's remove that one. Alright, remove this one. Okay, remove this one. This fan you're actually going to have to remove because the microphone cable is right here and it's going to be stuck. I'll actually just remove all the cables so you can see. And then the charge port is held in with 2 screws. The design's kind of dumb because the cable to plug it in is underneath the board, so while the charge port is a separate piece, you have to take the whole board out to replace the charge port. Okay, there you go. Okay, so the speaker connectors, you'll have to remove these as well. So there's another one here. So we already removed the first one, which was like stuck under here. But yeah, basically just grab as close to the connector as you can, and then just pull up to get it at an angle, and then just go around with your fingernail to get the rest of it out. Okay, so that's how you get that out. Then there's the keyboard connector here. So there's some adhesive holding this plastic strip in place, so just peel that up. And then there's a little black latch, just flip that up with your nail, and then you can pull this connector out. Okay, so you got that. This is the trackpad connector, and then this connector connects the SD card slot and these ports on the side. All right, so I think I'm actually going to have to remove the fans, but we'll see. Okay, so as you can see, now the board is kind of coming up. This battery connector is going to be in the way, so you're going to kind of have to bend it up while you're pulling this out. See, as you can see, it's getting caught on there. So one way to make it a little bit easier is peel up this plastic. Let's see here, and then there's a screw underneath here, so take that screw out. Okay. And then there's another screw on this side as well. Same thing, peel up the plastic, undo that screw. Okay. And that'll give you a little more room, because then this board can kind of lift up. Okay, so now you got that. Let's see here, am I missing anything? Okay, let's take the whole fan out. So take out the other screw for the fan. All right. Remember, don't mix up these screws, they're all different. And then undo the latch for this fan connector here. And they put this little, I believe there's a thermal sensor or something in the cable, but you can use it to push on that, and that will let you remove it. So actually this model, the fan doesn't go underneath the board, so I'm going to remove both fans just to make things easier. Okay, so same thing with this fan, take the screw out. Okay. Same thing, flip up the little latch. This one, the wireless card's in the way, but yeah, just flip it up, do the same thing, push on the connector right there. Okay. All right, and it'll come out just like that. All right. The wireless card, if you want to take it out, it's just like the SD card. There's one screw here. It'll come up slightly at an angle. You can pull it. Just keep wiggling it. There is a thermal pad under this, so it will get stuck. I'll show you. I'll leave it on the board after, but I'll just show you. So you want to pull it up. Be careful, because there's a thermal pad. Don't pull too hard. And then you can just wiggle it out, just like this. Okay, just like that. It's hard to do this at this weird angle, but yeah, so there's a thermal pad that makes it stick to this, so it's a little bit tough. But yeah, other than that, I'm going to leave it there because it doesn't hold the board down or anything. All right. There we go. Again, remember, there's a lot of cables that are kind of hanging over the board that when you put it back, it might get caught. So then you got to remove this board. Make sure all the cables are out of the way. Oh, remove the microphone cable, of course. So grab that. I use my fingernails and try and get slightly underneath the cable and then kind of wiggle it. You kind of have to also push this down. If you can't do it that way, it's best to use like a tool, like a little needle or something. And then you just get there, and then you can grab both sides of the needle, and while you're pulling that, push the cable down, and that should get it out. You kind of have to wiggle it. Okay, come on. There you go, just like that. And then after that, you want to like bend the cable out a little bit so it's staying away from the board, so it's not on top of it. All right, and then now we should be able to, I believe I got all the cables. This connector will kind of get in the way, so you have to kind of make sure that stays out of the way as well. And then you just lift it, just like this. Oh, this part, there's an adhesive that's making it stuck. So make sure yours isn't getting stuck. You can remove this little board first if you want. Okay, just like that. So this part, it has this. You can actually take this off, but I don't know why you would do that. But you can take that piece off. Okay, just latches over with these little plastic latches. I'm going to clean this up. Make sure there's no dust under. Okay, you can set that aside. So the board, this adhesive, make sure get it out of the way. Then you kind of lift it up, but also at an angle from this side, because all the ports on this side are going to be caught. So there's a lot of stuff all hanging over. The hardest part putting this back is making sure all these cables end up on top of the board while you're putting it back down. But basically go like that. All right, like this, and then at an angle, you just wiggle it out, and this whole piece will come out along with the charge board. Okay, so there's the charge board. This charge board's easy to remove. You just use your fingernails along the edge, or if it's broken, you can kind of just pull the cables close to it. Just be careful that you don't damage this. It looks like there was a little bit of liquid damage here or something. This part's corroded. Luckily, it didn't end up on the connector, so I'm just going to clean it off. Okay. So we'll clean off all the dust from the bottom. Clean off that corrosion. I don't know if there's corrosion, the stuff on the heat sink. It looks like thermal paste, but I don't know how it got up there. Okay, might have to use some rubbing alcohol. Okay, so the corrosion spot's gone. Doesn't look like it affected any of the connectors here. It's a little bit green powdery, but other than that, it's good. All right, let me clean off this. Get a napkin. And some rubbing alcohol, and that should take care of it. All right. Okay. Just rub that. It's all caught between the gaps. I don't think I can get all of it, but just get it a little bit cleaner. Okay. Okay, so clean that off a little bit. All right, so now the board is much cleaner. Set that aside. All right. All right. Oh, and this connector, if for some reason it's damaged, you can replace it. It's on the bottom. You just flip this up just like the other one and you can pull it out. Okay. Other than that, this board is completely solid like this. There's no pieces you can remove except for the charge port and that cable. The heat sink you can also take out. There's the 4 screws here if you need to redo the thermal paste or something. Usually I don't redo the paste unless the computer's having heat issues. This thing you can remove without taking the whole board out, so there's no point doing it like right away unless there's problems. Okay, then yeah, the wireless card. Now, that's pretty much it. The CPU is soldered down and also has some glue holding it in place, and then the RAM is all soldered to the board, so you can't really change any of that out. All right, so now we'll move on to this. This cable for the trackpad you can remove. It just has a latch like the other ones, and then there's an adhesive. You'll have to take this plastic off, and you can peel out this whole connector and take it out. If you do need to change the trackpad or the battery, they glue this battery in, and it's very difficult to remove. Usually I'll use like this tool and slide it under and like just cut all the adhesive. It's kind of a long process and tedious process, but yeah. Then you got the microphone is right here. The screen, if you need to remove it, there's 2 little, I don't know what you would call these, but they hold the screen in place. So you have to remove these 2, and then you also have to remove the 6 screws, 3 on each hinge. Okay, so this has a screw here, and then there's a little aluminum bracket that kind of hooks over the hinge. And to remove the screen, you'd have to open the computer, the thing 90 degrees, so that way or more, so that way the hinges can come out. Okay, and then for the speakers, there's 3 screws on each. I only need to remove the one that was on the left when it's flipped over, so because that screen was having issues, so I'll take that, or I mean the speaker was having issues. It was sounding a little crackly, so we're going to take that one out. But yeah, the battery is difficult, and then underneath the battery there's a metal plate. Depending which model, some of them the metal plate will be glued on, and some of them the metal plate will be held in with screws. But this one, I believe this one is held in with screws because it has the haptic feedback instead of the regular. Okay, so we'll replace the speaker. All right, put a new one. Okay, and that's just about it. I'll show kind of the process of putting back the board. Hopefully no one calls within that time, because if they do, I'm not going to do a part 2, because you basically just do this in reverse. Alright, so I'll start the process of putting the board back now. But that's pretty much how you replace the whole thing. The keyboard assembly, it comes like one whole piece. It is possible to replace just the keyboard, but it's so much work that you might as well just replace the whole thing. If you don't mind taking all that extra time and trying to do it, you basically have to pry the whole battery out and then take this whole black plastic off. There's rivets underneath the whole thing. You'll have to like rip out the whole keyboard, and a lot of the rivets will break. So usually I end up having to replace a lot of the rivets with some epoxy. So it's usually not worth the time or effort, because also your keyboard won't end up as nice. I end up having to put little like old plastic credit cards, cut them up and shove them underneath the keyboard keys on the other side to hold the keyboard against the frame. That way the epoxy can harden properly. But yeah, if you're going to replace the keyboard or the battery, a lot of times you can find the whole frame with everything in one piece, and it's a lot cheaper. I mean, it's not a lot cheaper, but it's a lot easier and not that much more expensive. So yeah. Okay, so now we're going to put the logic board back. So the hardest part is making sure, again, all these cables end up on top of the board. I don't know why Apple designed it like this. It's kind of stupid, but I guess they want people to accidentally try taking it apart and then not be able to put it back. But yeah, okay, so just slide the board in, same way you took it out. All right, just like that. Make sure the headphone jack lines up. And then if it's getting stuck, there's some little springs here that you have to make sure go underneath this metal piece. Okay, once you get that lined up, I like to keep it at an angle like this and then slowly pull up the connectors. Okay, just like that. Try and hold all these connectors out of the way. Okay. All right. And these little metal things sometimes will get caught, so you're gonna have to kind of wiggle this around, work with it, finesse it, get it into place. All right, make sure these cables end up on top. Make sure that backlight connector ends up on top. Okay, just like that. And then once you get everything, let's see. For some reason it doesn't want to sit. Something must be underneath. Okay, there we go. So once you put the board back in, make sure you got this is the right speaker. I mean, it's on the left side right now, but it's the right, this is the right side speaker. Battery connector, trackpad connector, keyboard, left side speaker. Then you got the microphone, you got the LCD connector, the webcam or Isight camera, and then the Wi-Fi antennas, and this backlight cable. All right, once you got all of that on top, then you can also put this one in. You might have to lift this up a little bit to make sure to get it in place. And like I was saying earlier, you can take this board and then you can do it like this, so you have more room. All right, just like that. Watch this back over. All right, and then you can put this at an angle. Same thing, there's little springs on there, make sure they go underneath. Okay, and then you just put that back down. Okay, make sure it's all lined up. Okay, we go. So for the charger, what I like to do, basically with your charger unplugged, I have this little adapter so I can do it without that. But with your charger unplugged, I like to put that there and then kind of pull on it slightly to make sure it's as much to the edge of the case as possible. Okay, so do that, pull on it. Make sure if you're using your charger that your charger's unplugged. You don't want power going to your board right now. Okay. Alright. Just like that. Alright, then you can plug in the microphone. Just pull it slightly back. Get it into the slot. And then push it in. Just like that. The little darker plastic area, it kind of sticks up, so you can use your fingernail to kind of help push it in. And then while you're pushing it in, put down the latch. Speaker, put down the connector, just pop it in place. Okay. The keyboard one, you kind of have to bend it a little bit, but curve it around and then get it in the slot and use the tab to help pull it. All right, just like that. All right, once you got it pulled, put the latch down. All right, trackpad, just make sure it's lined up and then push it down. All right, other speaker, same thing, line it up, push it down. This one should already be good. All right, LCD connector, same thing, line it up and then pull it in. All right, just like that, line it up, pull it in, and then latch it back down. Make sure the wire goes underneath or in front of this piece that sticks up, because you don't want to smash it with the case. You can damage the LCD connector. All right, so that's done. All right, now we start putting the other screws back so you can put the fan. Make sure the latch is up. Line it up. Get the cable into the slot and then push it in. Latch it down. All right. Same thing with the other fan. This fan has the connectors on it. Okay. Put it here. Make sure the latch is up. Get it in. Use the sticking up part to help push it in and then latch it down. All right, just like that. You can reconnect these. Okay, just like that. Just like that. Don't forget the keyboard backlight connector here. Just line it up. Push it down. All right. All these connectors will stay in place once they're in. Make sure don't do the battery until the end. Okay. Now that we got these, you can start putting the other screws in. Let's see here. So we got this one. When I put these screws back in, for this one board, I won't tighten it all the way. I'll just do it lightly first. Once I got the 2 screws in, then I'll make sure that the board is pushed against the side and then put the screws in all the way. Okay, just to make sure it's not getting pushed into the board. There we go. All right, so we got that. Then we got the corner one for the heat sink. It's a silver screw. Okay. On some models, they'll change the type of screw, so make sure that you're using the right screwdriver. Some models, they'll use a Phillips screw, PH0 on these. Okay, so just keep going. For the fan, I like to do the same thing. Just tighten it, and not really tighten it, just screw it in lightly. Okay. All right. And then once I have the screws in, I like to pull it as much as I can to the heatsink to make sure it's not as big of a gap. All right, then you can tighten them down. Okay, just like that. Then we got the one screw here for underneath. Make sure you put this before you put the SSD back. There's the one screw under here. Okay. Now you can put the SSD back in. make sure you put the notch on the right side. One side is shorter than the other. Okay, just like that. All right. Go. And we got the one screw here. Okay, got another screw here. If this is your first time doing this, again, well, even if you've done it before, always make sure all the connectors are on top before you start screwing things down, or you're going to end up having to take everything back out. So again, LCD cable, microphone, left speaker, or since it's upside down, right speaker, keyboard connector, trackpad connector, battery connector, right side speaker or left side speaker. And then you got the connector for this. You got the two connectors from that were on the fan if you didn't peel it off, and then you got the other fans, and you got the backlight, keyboard backlight cable, and all these antennas and the that. All right. So again, same thing with the fan. Put the screws in part way, not all the way. All right. The silver one, again, for the heatsink, but this one has a little nub on it, so you can put this rubber piece back on. Okay, so put the rubber piece back on there. All right, we got this other fan screw, this other fan screw. Okay, so once you got all of that, same thing with this board. I mean, I already lined it all up, but before tightening the screws, you can actually push the board over to make sure it lines everything up properly. But yeah. All right, and then the fans, you can do that just to be safe. It should be already close enough, but I'll do it just to be extra thorough. So what you can do, loosen all the screws slightly. This one, there's one screw under the SSD, so I'm going to take that up. Just to be safe. It looked like it's lined up, but I want to be extra sure because sometimes just a tiny bit of a gap can mess it up. Okay, you're going to want to peel this adhesive up and then undo these fans just in case they're holding on to the board. Okay, and then just use a bit of the board and push the side. Yeah, it's tight against the board, nothing's moving. One way to know for sure, I'll show you in a bit, but okay, tighten these, make sure the board stays in place. Okay. I think I tightened everything already. So again, with the fan, push up on it. I don't know if you saw, but it slid up quite a bit before I started tightening the screws. Okay. So one way to know if the motherboard is aligned properly to the side is the headphone jack here. As you can see, it has a little plastic ring that sticks out into the aluminum. So you want it to be about flush with this. Okay, that's that. Put back the SSD. All right. Oh, I probably should stick down that adhesive again. Okay. All right. Don't forget the battery screws for the battery connector underneath the adhesive. Okay. that. Okay, so you got all the screws back in. Then you need to put this, guide the wires back for the camera and the antennas. Okay, just like that. Alright, put in the camera cable first. The connector is a little bit difficult to push back with your fingers, so I like to use the screwdriver on the edge of the silver parts and then kind of just push it a little at a time on each side until it's completely flush. Okay, just back and forth. I don't know if you can see that in camera, but basically pull that back and forth until it's flush. Okay, then the wireless antennas, you basically just line it up with the hole and then push down. You shouldn't have to push down too hard, so make sure that you get it lined up right, because if you don't have it lined up right and you smash it down, you'll damage either the wireless card or the connector, and you don't want to do that because then you'll have to replace it. Alright, and if you damage the one on here, it's replacing the screen is very expensive, so you don't want to do that. Okay, there you go. Get all those connectors in. Alright, stick the adhesive back down. Get the screws again, T8s. Alright. So this metal bracket goes on top of the camera cable, so you can line it up and then make sure. Alright, just like that. Tighten it well. Alright. Alright, and then don't forget all the little brackets on top of each of these press-in connectors. Use the T5 screws. Again, it's very important that you don't mix up these screws. They're all different sizes, different lengths. And if you put one that's too long in the wrong spot, you can damage things. If you put one too short, it'll just fall out. So just make sure you don't mix them up. Alright. And you got this one. Sorry, I knocked the camera with my head. Okay. And usually with the screws, I like to turn them backwards a little bit first, just to feel them, you'll feel it like a click in place. So that way you make sure you don't screw it in at an angle, and then you can end up damaging things that way if you don't. So I always turn it backwards, and then you can hear the click, and then screw it in the rest of the way. I don't know if you can hear it on the camera, but let's see. So you can hear how it clicks if I keep twisting it backwards. So I make it click and then I twist it forward. Okay, so we got all the screws back in. Put this little thing back on top. And then last but not least, once you got everything back in, you can push the battery connector back in place. Alright. And then test the computer before you put all the bottom screws on, so you don't have to open it again if you forgot something. Alright, there we go. Oh, that's one thing, see? I almost forgot this rubber piece. Okay, but we'll see if it turns on and everything works okay. So I'm going to do a PRAM reset, which is Command Option PNR. Alright. And then I'll also do a SMC reset. If the battery's low enough, I can show you what that looks like. Okay, so when you have the plug in, well, I'll shut it down first. So usually whenever hardware changes, I like to do a PRAM and SMC reset, but you don't have to do that. Okay, so what you do, when you have it plugged in, as you can see, the light is orange. I don't know if you can see. Let me turn off the lights here. Okay, so as you can see, the light is orange. So what you do is Control, Option, Shift on the left side, I don't know if I can zoom out enough for you to see both at the same time. And then after you do, while you're holding that, press the power button and you'll see the connector goes green and then it'll go back to orange. So that's how you know you did the SMC reset properly. But that's pretty much it. I'm going to put the other little rubber piece back and then put the screws back in place and we should be good to go. Just put that little rubber piece back there. The adhesive is supposed to help the screws so they don't spin around or something when there's vibration or the sudden motion. But that's pretty much it. Just have to put back the screws now and we're good to go. Alright, just go back to the Pentalobe screwdriver and then put back all the 10 screws. Alright, just like that. Okay. And that's pretty much it. Hopefully this video helped you. If it did, please make sure to like and subscribe because that'll really help me out. And thank you for watching. I'm just going to put back the rest of the screws and then end the video. Alright. Okay, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.